Week 3, college football is here. Our best bets are on the way. It's Austin, joined by Logan. As always, we dive into the 4 of the biggest games on the slate, and then we wrap up the video with our favorite picks of the weekend. But first and foremost, Logan, how are you doing on this fine day?
Never better. I love recording these college football videos with you. It gives us a different change of pace than NFL and even baseball. When we go to the college football slate, there's just so many games, so many of these teams to choose from. I think we cooked up winning cards, though, this week for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And for the people watching out there, technically this video is going live on Friday, but a lot of you guys watch on Saturday, and it's actually Logan's birthday on Saturday. So go spread some love. You're going to tell anyone in this video it's Logan. He's got a birthday going. He's going to have the birthday luck on his side. Now, unfortunately, last week, Logan, I thought it was your birthday last Saturday because I served a ton of cake. I went actually a full fade. I went 0-4. And sometimes you can be like, Austin, you're terrible. But I think you'd rather get that out of your way early in the season. The rest of the season, I'm going to be smooth sailing, absolutely delivering winners. So your cake might be a little stale, but my bad. We'll hopefully have no cake for you today. But let's dive into the games, though. Let's start out where college game day is, as the LSU Tigers, the 16th ranked team, go into Columbia, South Carolina to take on the Gamecocks. Right now, you get LSU 7-point favorites. You might be able to get it juiced -6.5 line, but most books are at 7. Over under 40, 8.5. Logan, I have a prop in this game, so I'll talk about my prop in a second. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on this game.
Yeah, this is one I've went back and forth on. I mean, LSU, South Carolina. I think more my thought process on this one is just a good old fashioned SEC under. I really am not believers in either of these two offenses. Garrett Nussmeier leading the helm for LSU. I didn't really like what I saw, coming out of the gate against USC even. And then we kind of looked at how USC of South Carolina did in this one. I think they want to run the ball. I mean, if I'm South Carolina, I want to play possession. I want to kind of do what against Kentucky. Their offense showed up in a huge way, but that was Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky's defense. I still think LSU is definitely a step up from them. Kentucky's defense played terribly, and it wasn't even really Kentucky's defense. I mean, Kentucky's offense set them up in short fields all the time. So really, I think this one's just a good old-fashioned slugfest in this one. My lean for this one would be the under. And I don't really see an advantage with either of the spreads. Maybe a little bit to South Carolina, just because I think they'll have the towels, Darude Sandstorm, the Sandstorm going in South Carolina. So slight lean South Carolina, a little bit more of a lean to the under though.
Yeah, I like you kind of talked about the lead off your analysis. I've kind of been going back and forth. I know I talked to you. I was like, I kind of like LSU. I was like, no, I kind of like South Carolina. They'll be amped up having college game day. I wish this was a night game. It is a 12 p.m. noon, which is just a travesty or a tragedy. But yeah. Lenore Sellers kind of talked about him. He's their freshman QB. He's not been the best passer so far this season. He's more of that 6'3", 240-pound guy. I feel like if the Gamecocks have a chance here, it's to make this a lower scoring game, and to make this just a possession type game. And with that, I'm going to lead to my prop. My favorite prop of the weekend is in this game, and I'm actually going to Garrett Nussmeier. I'm taking his under in yards at 301.5. Now, if you look at technically on the season, he's over in both games. Barely. I think he had 308 and 302. So it's like he's barely going over this. But Logan touched on it. South Carolina has a lot of athletes back on that defense. They're much more improved than what we've seen over in years past. South Carolina still searching for their first 3-0 start of a season in 12 years. Not sure they get it here, but like I said, and like Logan said, we think this is a lower scoring game. I mean, a 48.5, you're not going to see a lot of low in the 40s totals for LSU this season. A offense that the books seem to have a lot of respect for. I mean, we saw their total against USC in the mid 60s. Obviously, it's USC's defense, but I think South Carolina can do their job here, limit these possessions, and hopefully leave Garrett Nussmeier under 300 yards. It's not easy to pass for over 300. He's done it in the first 2 games of the season. I think he goes under here. So my favorite prop of the weekend is under 301.5 passing yards for Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU Tigers QB. As always, if Logan and I sweep our props, we each go 1-0. We'll talk about his at the end of the video. We're giving away $50. All you got to do is go down below, subscribe, and like. That's all you got to do. Simple as that. We're going to move into our next game, though. As always, they're all timestamped down below. Forgot to mention. So if you didn't notice, you could skip around to some games. But let's go to our second game that we're going to talk about, Logan, as the Alabama heads into Wisconsin to take on the Badgers. Not a surprise, I think, to see the Crimson Tide land 16.5. Not a big surprise there. 49.5 point total. I'll kind of dive into this one. I almost made Alabama an official pick. I just don't like laying 16.5 on the road, especially for a team like Wisconsin that has a pretty good defense and what their bread and butter is just trying to run the football in lower scoring games. So I ended up avoiding the 16.5. I think that's a big number. I think Alabama, if I had to gun to my head, pick something here, back Alabama. But is there anything that I know you don't have an official pick here, anything that you kind of looked at though here?
I'm going to disagree with you. I think my lean would be with Wisconsin in this one. I just believe this is such a step up game for Wisconsin, a team that's kind of like sleepwalked the past few years. I mean, under Luke Fickell, like this is like a huge prove it game against an SEC contender in Alabama. Have you personally been impressed with Jalen Milroe so far this year? Because I haven't. I mean, against USF, Alabama didn't look impressive at all. I think they're a little bit vulnerable. I mean, under a new regime, Alabama's not necessarily this powerhouse that I think should be laying that many points. I truly think the odds makers might be putting a little bit of Alabama tax on there. Because I looked at that line and I was like, man, is Wisconsin really getting disrespected like this? They have a decent quarterback still with Tyler Van Dyke. I mean, he's been in college football for what seems like forever. I think Wisconsin's offense is strong enough to move the ball up and down the field and just play some Big Ten football. It's a contrast of styles. You got SEC versus Big Ten. Again, being in Camp Randall, I think that could be a little bit of a difference maker. I think that is simply too many points for Wisconsin. Give me the Badgers plus the points.
Yeah, when I was looking at that one, obviously Wisconsin's kind of sleepwalked through their first two games. They beat Western Michigan by 14, South Dakota by 14. It's like, all right, now you're facing Alabama, your first true test. That's why I kind of lean the Crimson Tide. But on the same side, Wisconsin should wake up for this game. I'm still not a Tyler Van Dyke believer. I feel like I backed Miami a few times over the past few years. Man, sucked anytime I backed them. But yeah. I don't know. I'm curious how that one goes out. Logan and I don't have official picks in there, but do whatever you want with it. Let us know what you guys like down below in the comments. Next one, we have a battle of two ranked teams, Logan, as Boston College goes on the road to Missouri to take on the 6th-ranked Tigers. Boston College 24th ranked overall. Mizzou, very similar to Bama, though they're at home laying 16.5 points, over under 53.5. I don't have an official pick here, but Logan, I can go first. I like Boston College. Maybe I'm a Thomas Castellanos, just hype beast. I feel like they can keep this game close. Mizzou, I feel like they're not a 6th-ranked team, but they have so many returning guys. I don't know really what to do here. If I had to bet anything, I'd lean Boston College. What are your kind of thoughts on this one?
I like that we're disagreeing back to back. I lay all the points with Missouri. I think this is a big spread, but a big spread for a reason. I just think Missouri's built a lot differently. I think they are a matchup nightmare for Boston College. Look, we know what Tommy Castellanos wants to do. He wants to run the ball. I mean, this is a scramble, dual threat type quarterback, but mostly on the ground. If you don't think Missouri's defensive front is going to key on that, well, you're probably wrong, because I definitely think they're watching film. They're saying, how do we keep this guy in the pocket? Just turn him into a pocket passer. I think once they do that, they will absolutely shut down Boston College. Missouri, #1 defensively in the nation in 2 categories, only allowing 41 passing yards per game and 1.7 yards per play. Yeah, of course, they played lower competition in their first couple games, but their defense looks legit. As you mentioned, they do have a bunch of returning starters. Secondary for Boston College, pretty lackluster. I think Brady Cook has a big game. Luther Burden, I'm tired of touching Luther Burden props, but watch him go for 150 yards this week, because I tried predicting it last week. Nope, it was the Weasley guy, the other wide receiver that had over 100 yards himself. There's just too much firepower for this Missouri team. I think they're ranked high for a reason. There's just no way the polls and the projections have Missouri this high if they don't see what I see. And I think this Missouri Tigers team is a legit contender. I like Missouri, and I would lay all the points.
Hey, man, I didn't have a good convincing argument for Boston College. I might be leaning with Mizzou. You kind of convinced me. I can understand where you're coming from there. I mean, I don't know if Boston College is all that good. They beat Florida State, which is why I kind of feel like they're ranked here. But Florida State, what are they so far? I mean, they play Memphis at home. We're not going to talk about that game. They better hope they win that game. If they start off 0-3, that'd be a disaster of a start. But interesting, that game's going to be a cool one. And then our final game we're going to talk about, Logan actually has an official pick in this one. Oregon on the road in Corvallis, taking on the Oregon State Beavers. Oregon, we have the same 16.5 point spread, a 50.5 total here. I'll keep it short and simple, Logan, because I know you have an official pick, and I'll let you dive into that in just one moment. Oregon screwed me. I hate them. They're one of my full fade. They were in there. They could have lost to Boise State. They had a crazy return touchdown. Dylan Gabriel's looking terrible. You just got engaged. Shout out to him. I follow him on Instagram. Only reason I know that. But I'm just not sold on what Oregon's done so far this season. I think this line is still assuming, hey, they're going to finally figure it out, right? They're going to figure it out. But hey, you're basically banking on them figuring it out on the road in Corvallis, a tough spot to play. Logan, I'll let you take your pick, your first official pick of the vid. Where are you rocking?
Yeah, my first official pick is in this game, and I'm taking the underdog, Oregon State, and I'm laying all the points in this one. I think Oregon State plus 17 or 16 and a half, wherever the line's going to be, I think that's plenty of points. And truly, this is the fate of the Oregon Ducks. Haven't liked what I've seen so far, and I don't think you could blame me. They always get line respect. They're Oregon. They are a premier program. They get line respect. And so this is a very dangerous environment for them going into Corvallis. I'll let you know right now, I don't see them necessarily absolutely rolling to a victory in this one. Can they win by, 10 to 14 points? Sure. But I mean, you're nearly 17 point spread in this one. You could get 17 if you buy the half point, or it's even on some books. I think the Dylan Gabriel offense is we're still seeing them get into form. They are not at peak form. Their offensive line isn't playing very well. They only averaged 3 yards per carry against Boise State. If you're not able to run the ball, I don't care what you want to say, you're one-dimensional. And this Oregon offense is not necessarily running the ball with efficiency. Oregon State, they definitely have the tools to be able to move the ball on Oregon themselves. Giovanni McCoy, Idaho transfer, he's looked good so far. I think he's able to get some yards through the air in this one. And the Beavers, I just mentioned Oregon's not good at running the ball. Oregon State has been running the ball with some efficiency, 5th in the nation at almost 300 yards per game so far. I mean, small sample size in the year, but this Oregon State team, it has the ability to control the clock in this one. That's big against Oregon. Oregon wants to get out. They want to play fast. They want those explosive down the field plays. Well, contrast of styles, Oregon State doesn't want to play like that. And if you got a big spread, I mean, all I'm asking you to do is keep this one competitive, Oregon State. In Corvallis, they were absolutely going to be fired up to see, their old Pac-12 rival. Once again, now obviously in new conferences. I think if we looked at Ashton Jonty, what he was able to do against this Oregon defense, I think Oregon State will be just fine in this one. Give me the Beavers and all the points. I think they are legit underdogs in this one. I don't know that they win it outright, but just give me the points and I'll take that as my first pick.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue into my first pick when I dive into the picks we love for the weekend slate, what we're betting on. As always, we like covering those big 4 games because those are the ones you guys might be watching. We're going to dive into some games maybe you're not watching, but some games that we think there's some value on one of the sides. And Logan, I saw your shirt, and it's your birthday on Saturday. There's no chance you're an alum. Nah, it doesn't come through. We're taking Florida plus 3.5, minus 110 on DraftKings. Now, Logan has backed Florida once and then made it look like an idiot. It's, at least if I do it, well, now we're even on the season. But I have faded Texas A&M once this season. It was back in week 1 against Notre Dame. Everyone was on A&M. They lost that game and they looked terrible. Now they're going into the swamp and I'm fading them again. I am not a Florida fan. So if it comes out of Logan's mouth, he's slightly biased, but I am not a Florida fan. Heck, I will be rooting hard against them in just a few weeks when we're in the swamp as UCF takes on UF. But let me more on that later. DJ Lagway is expected to start his second career game. Started last week. Solid start for him, obviously, against the Cupcake Stanford or whatever. But it was good to see him get some snaps under his belt instead of being just thrust into the game when Graham Mertz got injured. And I'm not a Texas A&M believer. I've talked about Connor Wegman. I think he sucks. He had one good game against McNeese. Proud of him, but look at week 1. The man completed 40% of his passes, a couple interceptions. I'm not a huge fan of the Gators defense, but I'm confident that these guys will be ready to defend their home turf. And I think they'll be able to maybe win this game outright. If you look at the Gators schedule, we know they don't have a ton of winnable games late in this year. If they're going to try to make a bowl game, this has got to be a win here. And I'm not saying they even win this game. I just think the field goal is too many points. I'm not a Wegman believer. On the road in the swamp, or it'll be pretty hostile. Give me the Gators plus 3.5. It's a birthday present for Logan, and it might be an outright victory for the Gators. Logan, give me your second pick of the week.
Look, I wore this shirt for you. Hopefully, the Gators come through for you. I'll be rooting on that play. I kind of wanted to join you on that, but there's just no way we can go double Gators until we really see it. Love that as one of your picks. My second pick, though, is going to be a first half under, and I'm taking the Notre Dame and Purdue first half under. Look, I'm taking first half because in college football, it's one of those weird things. Some of the first half versus the full game, they play differently sometimes. They out of the halftime, they make adjustments. Normally, we see a lot more offense in the second half of these games once the offensive coordinators are able to adjust to what the defense is doing. So I like the first half between these two teams. Do I even need to talk about what Notre Dame did last week? Laying an absolute egg against Northern Illinois in Notre Dame, can't have that. Obviously, their team should come out fired up. They should come out motivated. I don't doubt that. But what I do doubt is Riley Leonard. I mean, he has not looked all that great. 45.3 QBR. That's awful. Do I even need to expand on that? It's obvious what Notre Dame wants to do. They want to run the ball with Jeremiah Love. Of course, that's their bread and butter is running the ball. Well, Purdue kind of can be a stingy run defense. I don't necessarily see all these yards coming for Notre Dame on the ground. I think Purdue's front is able to bow up and stop them in there. Purdue also extra week to prepare. They got an early bye week last week, so they're able to come out and scheme against this Notre Dame offense. They're able to see what worked for Northern Illinois because Northern Illinois absolutely shut them down. I think Purdue comes out in the first half and shuts them down as well. And then obviously we can talk about Notre Dame's defense, which I still think is a very solid, front. Obviously, they in their secondary they got Xavier Watts, very very talented in the back end of the secondary. Northern Illinois pushed them around a little bit up front. I still think if you're Purdue, you're playing a hungry, motivated Notre Dame team. You want to run the ball. You want to chew clock. You don't want to put your quarterback in positions that he's uncomfortable with. Hudson Card, he's the quarterback for Purdue. The Irish secondary, they're not going to be easy to pass on at all. They're only allowing 100 yards per game. That's 15th in the country. So on the year, again, this secondary is good for Notre Dame. I think this is a trench war early in this one. I really do feel like the under is going to cash in the first half. If it cashes in the full game, good for that. But I don't want the full game after these two teams make an adjustment. But Austin, give us another pick.
Yeah, I got a total as well. And I'm going to take an over. No one likes betting unders, although I will note my last pick is an under, so don't hate me. I'm going to Tulane in Oklahoma, taking the over 45.5 in this game. I get a 46.5. That's all you got. Now, I was looking hard at back in Tulane on the spread, the green wave. But I don't think they're covering this 11.5 point spread I think they're getting unless they're putting up some points. So I'll go with the over. The Green Wave scored 52 in their opener. And last week, pretty high scoring game against Kansas State, a defense that I think is pretty solid. They put up 27 in that game. Darian Mensah, their QB, he takes shots down the field. That's what he wants to do. And this season, he's averaging nearly 19 yards per completion. Hey, that's great for an over if you're checking down the field. If it's either you're completing that or you're getting off the field and you're giving to the other team. We don't need these long 12-minute drives to really nuke an over that we got here. And I think they'll be able to take some shots, maybe connect on some and put up some points against Oklahoma. On the flip side, we need Oklahoma to score some points. They scored 51 on Temple in week 1, then struggled last week, only 16 against Houston. Tulane's defense, as I talked about, not a great defense. I mean, they gave up 34 to Kansas State, an offense that's all right. Jackson Arnold, the QB for the Sooners, not a guy that I'm super confident in, not a guy that's really slinging it around the field. Very low average depth of target and pass to his wide receivers. But look, I expect them to get some production from the run game. They have had no production from that run game so far. Now they have Tulane defense that really struggled stopping Kansas State last week, gave them over 6 yards per carry. They can make Jackson Arnold's life a little bit easier, getting him into second and short, third and short. Let him keep converting those drives. Maybe one of their playmakers make some plays. We get some longer touchdowns in here. I think we can get it done. Also, Oklahoma has Tennessee on deck. So, look, if they don't get the offense figured out now, good luck, because Tennessee's going to put up points. Whether you like it or not, they are one of the best offenses in the college football. So I think this is a good spot for Oklahoma to test out some plays, see what's working, and really pile up the points on Tulane. I think Tulane can score points on them as well. I really like an over at 45.5 in that game. But Logan, I need another winner from you. Where are you going?
Yeah, so I just picked the first half under as my second pick. My third pick is another under. I'm taking the backyard brawl, West Virginia and Pitt under. And this one is a total that I think is just set too high. In the 60s in this one, I see this being more of a slugfest. I mean, it's called the backyard brawl for a reason, right? Let's talk about why I like this one between West Virginia and Pitt, though. Stylistically, I see more of a 2 o'clock game. I see this one kind of going down. It could be a close game as the spread indicates. Again, both these two teams offensively, West Virginia, they haven't looked great at all. I won't lie to you. Well, against Penn State, they looked absolutely shell-shocked. Garrett Green did not look good in that game at all. So far, I'll tell you some stats for West Virginia offense because it's not great. 118th in the country in points scored per game, 121st in yards per play. If they're not getting the explosive plays, those are the daggers. In college football, you get those like, 40, 50-yard type touchdowns, quick drive touchdowns, you're betting under, you're cooked. West Virginia doesn't play with a whole lot of pace either. I think Pitt's defense is certainly capable of stopping them. Pitt's defense not necessarily like an elite unit in football, but they are sixth best in the country so far in rushing yards allowed per game. I think they're going to be stingy up front on that side of the ball. And then we can talk about Pitt's offense versus West Virginia's defense. Look, West Virginia's defense, this is a step up spot for them. Pitt's offense, not necessarily world beaters. They are 15th in points scored per game, so they've got out of the gate fast. That game against Cincinnati last week was weird. I mean, Cincy had a lead and Pitt came absolutely storming back. That was just one of those games that was a classic, like college football, wild, wacky game. Pitt was able to move the ball. They were able to get some explosive plays down the field, but this West Virginia team is good. I mean, they're not as bad as they looked at times against Penn State. They had a little bit of a tune-up game against Albany last week. Only held Albany to 14 points. Good. That's what we want to see. We want to see them tightening up. And obviously, after that Penn State game, there was only one way to go, and that was up. I think both these two teams play at a slower pace. Again, control clock. That's the identity of both these teams. I do not see a whole lot of explosive, high-scoring plays. Give me the under in the backyard brawl between West Virginia and Pitt. I just think this is too high of a total. I like that as my third pick. Austin, throwing it back to you, though.
Yep, I got a total, and I really like mine. And I'm actually, like I said, I got an under to wrap up my card. My third and final pick for the video. Georgia, Kentucky, give me the under, 45.5 points. Currently minus 110, minus 115 on every single book. I don't think this is a high-scoring game here for Georgia. Obviously, I could talk about the Georgia defense. They've been one of the best units, not just this year, over the last few years. I'm confident they can shut out Kentucky. I think this comes down to, can Kentucky slow down Georgia? Now, obviously, it's a big task, but if you look at Georgia, they've now won 14 straight against Kentucky, so they're probably going to win this game. But I think that Kentucky can at least give them a fight here. And prior to last year, when Georgia went up and hung a 50-piece on Kentucky, this matchup had gone under in 4 straight years. And if you look at UGA's schedule, they have a bye after this week, and then they face Alabama in 2 weeks. So maybe they don't go crazy on the play calling, using every single trick in the book. Kentucky, as Logan kind of talked about early on in this video, we talked about South Carolina. They're coming off an embarrassing defeat, 31-6 at home. That goes to show how bad their offense is. Their QB will get a revenge game spot, if you will. He's a UGA transfer, but he looked terrible. He completed like 3 of his 10 passes. He's pretty dang bad. This comes down to, can Kentucky's defense step up? And I think Stoops can get a game plan to at least limit UGA a little bit. I'm not saying they shut them out and they win outright. That's not happening. But I do think that they can limit UGA to 30 or less. I feel like we had a really good shot at cash in this one. I almost bet Kentucky on the spread, which are about 24-point dogs. But I don't think they're covering the spread unless this is a lower scoring game. If UGA is getting into the 40s by themselves, I have no faith in Kentucky being able to put up points against a very stout UGA defense, arguably one of the best, if not the best, in college football. So I like this under. I think it's a pretty solid one. I don't think a lot of people will be on it. Maybe a lot of people won't be watching this game. Just to assume UGA steamrolls them. Give me the under, though. 45.5 in UGA versus Kentucky. But Logan, I'm throwing it to you. Actually, you know what? I'll recap my full card. I'll put up on the screen so you guys know exactly what I'm doing, and then I'll throw it to Logan for him to roll through his prop and his full card. My full card, I got Florida plus 3.5. I got the Tulane, Oklahoma over. I got the UGA, Kentucky under. My prop, Garrett Nussmeier, under 301.5 passing yards. But Logan, I need a prop from you, and I heard you're being disrespectful with it, and then I need your full card. What you got?
Yeah, you mentioned disrespect because we all know Austin, UCF alum. I'm kind of fading UCF with this prop. I'm taking Cam Cook, running back for TCU, over 76.5 rushing yards. Look, this is going to be my prop pair. We're going to hopefully pair it up with Austin's prop and cash this little mini parlay. He's 1-1 to this line so far. In his most recent start or game, only 13 carries, 58 yards. That would have went under. But against Stanford, in a game that I think TCU, they had to control it through the ground, 20 carries, 81 yards. Now I ask myself, what do I see more likely against the UCF team? Obviously, this is a big time game for TCU. It's short spread. I like TCU to be able to run the ball a lot on UCF. I've always questioned really how much UCF's road rushing defense travels, because I mean I think you could still run on this UCF team that haven't faced competition yet. We got to call it what it is. They haven't faced competition. They haven't really had a fight in the trenches yet. TCU already had that with Stanford, and Cam Cook went over. I think the recipe to success, you got to keep UCF off the field. You got to keep all those playmakers off the field, KJ Jefferson, etc. How do you do that? You feed Cam Cook, almost did the other running back. I think he has a big day, and again, 76.5 rushing yards. That's not even asking for too much. He could get it just with the workload alone. I love that as my pick. I will recap my card real quick though. I had Oregon State laying all the points with the Beavers, or taking all the points with the Beavers. I had the first half under between Notre Dame and Purdue, and then I also had the under in the West Virginia game in the backyard brawl against Pitt, and then I had Cam Cook over in rushing yards. Austin, I think we're in store for a big week. Let's make some money.
I mean, that's 8 picks, and that could be an 8-0 sweep on Logan's birthday. Hey, we would love that. Those are favorite picks for college football Saturday. As always, let us know your favorite picks down below. Drop a like, subscribe. We'll have plenty of NFL videos for Sunday posted on Saturday, so make sure you tap into those. And there already is one NFL video where Logan and I kind of do a similar thing to this video, but for every single NFL game. So we obviously can't do every single college football game, or Logan and I might be here for the rest of our lives, but definitely go tap into that. I'll link it on the screen. Have a wonderful and profitable week 3. And Logan and I will see you guys, or college football folks, back for week 4, as well as in some other videos. See you then. Peace.